Okay, so let's get right into it. For as long as anyone can remember, if you're a big factory or a major business, you've bought your power from one place, the national utility. Super simple, sure, but not exactly a world of choice. Well, that whole picture is about to get a major shakeup, and we're going to break down exactly what's happening.
Just think about this for a second. Instead of just plugging into the wall and getting whatever power comes out, what if you could pick up the phone, call a brand new wind farm and say, "Hey, I want to buy my power from you." That's the exact idea that is now becoming a reality in Vietnam, and it's completely redrawing the map for how energy works. All right, so to really get this, we need to first understand the old way of doing things, the problem, if you will, and then dive into the new government solution that's changing the game.
And this really is a fundamental shift. I mean, the traditional model was a one-way street. You bought power from the national utility. End of story. But now, the market is cracking wide open. Big energy users can actually shop around and cut deals directly with clean energy producers. It's like going from a monologue to a dynamic conversation.
And this document right here, this is the key that unlocks it all. It's called Decree 80. Think of it as the official new rulebook from the Vietnamese government that lays out the entire framework for this direct purchase system. So it's not just a nice idea anymore. This is now the law of the land.
At the heart of this whole thing is one core concept: the Direct Power Purchase Agreement, or DPPA for short. It sounds technical, but it's a pretty simple idea. It's a contract that lets a big customer, like a factory, make a long-term deal to buy green energy straight from the source, a solar or wind farm, cutting out the middleman. Okay, so buying power directly sounds great, but you might be wondering, how does the electricity actually get from a solar panel in a field to a factory floor miles away? Well, it turns out the decree lays out two very clear and distinct paths to make this happen.
Yeah, if you look inside the decree, Article 4 is where the magic happens. It doesn't just give a vague thumbs up, it provides a real structure with two specific models for how these deals can actually take place.
Path number one is about as direct as it gets. You can think of it as a private wire. Seriously, the renewable energy producer literally builds a dedicated power line that runs straight to their customer's facility. No sharing, no using the public grid. It's an exclusive, direct connection.
The process is pretty straightforward, really. Step 1, the line gets built. Step 2, the two sides sign a contract that locks in the price and the terms. And bam, Step 3, the clean energy starts flowing directly from seller to buyer. This model is just perfect when the generator and the customer are located pretty close to each other.
But what if your solar farm is way down in the sunny south and your factory is up in the industrial north? That's where Path 2 comes into play. In this scenario, the producer uses the existing national power grid to deliver their electricity. It's kind of like using public roads to deliver a package. You just pay a fee to use the infrastructure that's already there. So here's how that plays out. First, the wind farm generates the power and pumps it onto the grid. Then, the customer, who could be hundreds of miles away, just pulls that same amount of power out of the grid. And finally, everyone gets out their calculators and settles up, paying the market price for the power plus a service fee to the grid operator for the delivery.
This new market sounds pretty exciting, but it's not a total free-for-all. The decree is very specific about who gets to play in this new sandbox. So let's meet the key players who are invited to the party.
First up, the sellers. Now, we're not talking about your neighbor's rooftop solar panels here. Article 2 is specific. These need to be wind or solar projects of a decent size, with a capacity of at least 10 megawatts. So this is really aimed at those big, utility-scale renewable projects. And on the other side of the deal, who's buying all this power? Again, this is for the big fish. Article 2 says it has to be large consumers. The technical yardstick they use is a connection to the grid at 22 kilovolts or higher. In plain English, that means huge industrial users, the factories and manufacturing hubs that really power the economy.
And finally, you have the operator, or maybe think of them as the referee. This is the National Utility, Vietnam Electricity, or EVN. They are absolutely essential, especially for Path 2. They own and manage the grid, that highway for the electricity, and they make sure the whole system runs smoothly and all the accounting adds up correctly. Okay, so we know who the players are and the two ways they can play. But, just like any market, this one has rules. So let's take a look at the responsibilities for everyone involved, and maybe most importantly, how the price for all this electricity gets decided.
Articles 7 and 8 in the decree spell out the duties for both sides. For sellers, it's about being fully licensed and playing by the grid's rules. For buyers, it's mostly about making sure their own equipment is safe and up to standard. Really, it's all about maintaining a stable and secure power system for everybody.
Now, I know what you're thinking when you see this slide. Whoa, that's a lot of math! And, well, you're not wrong. But don't get bogged down in the algebra. The purpose of all these detailed formulas is actually really important. They're designed to make the pricing system totally transparent and fair, so everyone knows exactly how the costs are calculated.
And a huge part of that system is this idea from Article 11, the spot market price. This just means the price isn't some fixed number pulled out of a hat. It's actually tied to the live, competitive electricity market, so it changes with supply and demand. This makes the whole thing much more dynamic and reflective of what's really happening in the market.
So, we've gone through the nitty-gritty, the what, the how, and the who. But let's zoom out for a second. Why does a new regulation about buying electricity matter so much? What's the bigger picture here for Vietnam's energy future?
Look, this DPPA mechanism is a potential game changer on so many levels. For businesses, it's a golden ticket to hitting their sustainability goals and maybe even locking in more stable energy prices. For investors, it's a giant green light that says Vietnam is serious about renewable energy. And for the country as a whole, it's a massive leap toward hitting its climate targets and creating a more modern, competitive energy sector.
And that, of course, leaves us with the big question. This decree has officially opened the door and created a brand new pathway for clean power. The rules are written, the players are ready. The real question now is, will this new mechanism be the spark that truly supercharges the country's clean energy revolution? That's the billion-dollar question, and only time will tell.